The persecution of blasphemers is not something of the past, nor is it as far away as we allow ourselves to think. Here in the West, every few years or so, this misperception is punctuated by something. A fatwa against an author, the murder of a filmmaker, a firebombing of a publisher, cartoonists gunned down in their offices, a priest beheaded, a schoolteacher murdered, and another chased into hiding. But elsewhere around the world, this is happening all the time to ordinary people, and we barely talk about it. Earlier this year, I made a documentary for ADF International, released yesterday on the UN Day for Remembering Those Persecuted for Their Religion. I interviewed a Christian couple, Shagufta and Shafkat, who spent 7 years on death row in Pakistan after they were accused of blasphemy. Their faith in the face of death is so unusual to us here in the West that it almost seems miraculous. It serves as a warning to a complacent West of the real, often murderous consequences of accusations of blasphemy. Christians make up a tiny proportion of Pakistan's population, less than 2%. Every day this threat hangs over them. They are abused, discriminated against, and frequently victims of mob violence. Judges are too frightened not to give a guilty verdict. And even if they're acquitted, death threats still hang over their heads. And this is not only Pakistan. Christians are persecuted across the world, but we ignore their suffering because Christians are perceived here as privileged, regardless of the facts. Our society has failed to show the same courage as Shagufta and Shafkat, and in doing so, it has set our culture down a dangerous path, a path that makes it easy for accusations of blasphemy to be weaponized to silence political and religious opponents, free thinkers and creatives. I wasn't alive when the fatwa was issued against Salman Rushdie, but I have grown up in a culture that increasingly capitulates to threats against free thought and speech. Instead of responding to the realities of a worldwide problem by standing up unequivocally for our freedom, we have internalized censorship. We have accepted this imposition and let it control what we can say, write, and read. In this globalised world, what happens elsewhere may as well happen on our doorstep. Shagufta and Shafkat's story serves not only as a light to the world, but also as a warning.